Hello everyone, it's Tuesday, May 26th. I'm Stephanie Haney. This is your 3 News Now afternoon update with our top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. We will start off with the latest numbers from the Ohio Department of Health, which we now have in for COVID-19 cases, deaths, hospitalizations, and ICU admissions here in the state of Ohio. These numbers just now in from the Ohio Department of Health. Good news today, new cases are down quite a bit today. New deaths are slightly down, but hospitalizations and ICU admissions are up just a bit here from the numbers that we saw reported yesterday at 2 p.m. We also have hit a milestone that we were hoping not to hit, but we have hit it here in the state of Ohio in terms of the number of deaths. There are now a total of 33,006 confirmed cases and probable cases of COVID-19 here in the state of Ohio, with the number of new daily reported cases today at 529. That's down from yesterday when we saw 566 new cases reported. So yesterday sort of broke up several days in a row where we saw the new daily reported cases going down. So we now have one day where we have seen the new daily reported cases going down. And the reason that we're looking at these daily numbers again is because we are looking for a trend. And a trend has been defined as 14 days of numbers that are trending down by health professionals. And that's what we are looking for in order to reopen things on a larger scale. That's the point of all of this. So in terms of the number of deaths, we have now broken that 2,000 death mark here in the state of Ohio. There are now a total of 2,002 reported COVID-19 related deaths. Those are both confirmed positive cases and probable cases based on that expanded CDC definition. We saw 15 new reported deaths today based on those new numbers from the Ohio Department of Health. That's down just slightly from yesterday when we saw 18 new reported deaths, which was up from Sunday, when we saw 13 new reported deaths. But these numbers of reported deaths have really been all over the place because on Saturday we saw 84 new reported deaths. But today that number is down from yesterday. So that's one day in a row that we've seen the new daily reported numbers of deaths down here in Ohio, again reaching that total number of 2,002, breaking that 2,000 mark for the first time. Looking at hospitalizations, the total number of hospitalizations related to COVID-19 here in Ohio is now at 5,579, with 68 new hospitalizations reported today. As for ICU admissions, that total number is now at 1,450. Remember, that number dates all the way back to March 9th when we first learned of the first confirmed positive case of COVID-19 here in Ohio. Today, we saw 7 new ICU admissions reported. That's up from 5 yesterday. When we take a look at the U.S. and globally, however, the number of new cases and deaths in both cases seems to be down today. We looked at over the weekend, we saw 65,068 new cases reported in the U.S. from Friday to Monday. Today in the U.S., we saw 15,650 new reported COVID-19 cases. That brings the total in the U.S. to about 1,670,000 reported COVID-19 cases. In terms of number of deaths, this is the smallest number of U.S. deaths we've seen reported in a 24-hour period in quite some time. There were 486 new deaths reported between yesterday and 1 p.m. today. This is based on Johns Hopkins University data. So that brings the total number of deaths across the U.S. now to 98,426. If we take a look at how the U.S. compares to what's happening globally, in the past 24 hours, the U.S. has 19% of new cases worldwide, so that's a smaller percentage than we've seen in the past. We've seen those percentages in the 22, 23, 24, 25% range. Today, the U.S. has 19% of the new cases reported worldwide of COVID-19, and 31% of the deaths reported in the last 24 hours of COVID-19. So this is, we had seen this in the 20s as well. It had been in the 30s, in the 1/3 range as well. So we're back at that 31% range of new deaths for the U.S. of the total worldwide number in the past 24 hours. Worldwide, there have been 82,692 new cases of COVID-19 reported in the last 24 hours, bringing that total to 5,543,000 reported cases of COVID-19. And globally, there have been 1,543 new reported deaths in the past 24 hours, bringing the total number of deaths globally related to COVID-19 to now 347,836. Here in Ohio, something that's happening today is the BMVs have reopened, and our Brandon Simmons has been out at some of those locations checking out the lines, and there have been massive lines all day long. Many locations, this is including the Bedford location as well as the Church Square Plaza and 79th and Euclid locations. These are just a couple of the ones that we've been checking out. There have also been technical difficulties reported at multiple locations, including the one in Medina, where an outage occurred for about 90 minutes, so definitely making that a tough day for people there. Also, our Brandon Simmons has reported that the online scheduling tool has been down for at least a portion of the day. Government officials are reminding people that while the BMVs are reopened, you can use the online services. Keep in mind if you need to renew license plates, change your address, update your next of kin or emergency contact information, update your organ donor registration, whether you want to be an organ donor or not be an organ donor, that kind of thing. Also, some tests locations are currently only performing knowledge tests with skills tests to resume at a later date. These are for people who are looking for a new license or need to be retested in order to get their license. So keep that in mind. And people are also being reminded again that if your license expired on March 9th or later, you do have an extension in order to deal with that. And you don't necessarily have to rush out in order to get to a BMV to renew your driver's license. That is extended until at least 90 days after the state of emergency ends here in Ohio, or December 1st, whichever comes first. So at the very least, if the state of emergency ended today, which it's not happening, but if it did, you would have 90 days to get your license renewed if you haven't had it renewed already, or December 1st, whichever comes first. So keep that in mind. Something else that people have been wondering about, Ohio e-checks will resume today. So according to the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, all e-check stations will be taking precautions in order to minimize the risk concerning spreading COVID-19, and they will be following the governor's safe business requirements. So inspectors at e-check locations will be wearing masks, gloves, and face shields. The inspection process has been modified to allow for physical distancing and enhanced sanitation. However, it is recommended that customers who are traveling to an e-check station alone, they recommend that you do it alone, don't have people in the car with you, and that you wear some type of face covering, because it is possible that you might have to get out of the car during testing for a portion of that testing. So the stations closed on March 19th, and then after that, Ohio EPA coordinated with the Ohio BMV to issue 6 month extensions, by the way, to all motorists. So if your vehicle renewal was due between February 1st and June 30th of this year, you have a 6-month extension. So another place that you don't necessarily have to rush out to right away, those e-check stations. So that 6-month extension remains in effect. You have 6 months from the date the vehicle renewal was due to have that vehicle tested. So keep that in mind. You don't necessarily have to rush out to an e-check station today either. Take your time, make an appointment, that kind of thing, so that you can avoid being caught in a big line in a group of people where you don't necessarily want to be or have to be right now. Something to keep in mind here, child wellness visits have dropped by more than 50% according to a pediatrician's report. This is according to Metro Health. Their pediatricians have seen a decrease in the number of infants and children coming in for preventative visits and vaccinations. During the course of this pandemic so far, the American Academy of Pediatrics says that doctor visits have dropped 60% across the country. This is due to people with concerns over COVID-19. The chair of pediatrics at Metro Health, Dr. Naza Abu-Ghali, said this is mostly because of people concerned about COVID-19 and parents worried about bringing their children to the doctors. So Dr. Abu-Ghali continued saying, "We and the American Academy of Pediatrics want parents to know that avoiding getting necessary health care for your child may lead to an increase in vaccine-preventable diseases and other health problems." According to the AAP, here are some issues that could pop up if your children miss an appointment for this kind of preventative care. Mental health problems in children and teens, such as depression and anxiety, flare-ups of certain chronic conditions like asthma, allergies, and diabetes, lower rates of immunizations to prevent and keep highly contagious diseases such as measles and whooping cough from happening, and also delayed diagnoses of illnesses and developmental problems such as autism. So keep that in mind. Medical professionals have been saying now that if you do need to keep up this medical maintenance, keep up this mental health maintenance as well. So if your child is due for an appointment, talk with your pediatrician and see if it's right to get your child in to have that appointment, if that's necessary for your child. Here's some news about amusement parks. Everyone has been very interested in what Cedar Point will be doing, so here's something that might give us a little bit of insight into that. Six Flags will be requiring guests and employees to wear face masks when reopened. Now, if you take a look around town in Ohio, many of you are probably seeing the same things that I've been seeing. You're seeing a handful of employees in a space where dozens of people are there. Now, the employees are wearing masks because they are required to by orders here in the state of Ohio, but the patrons are not, and the businesses are not necessarily requiring those patrons to wear masks. Well, that will not be the case at Six Flags. At Six Flags, they say that all of their employees will be issued what is called a team member action pack. That will include a safety face mask, safety glasses, and disposable gloves. And guests over the age of 2 will be required to wear face masks covering the nose and mouth throughout the time that they are at Six Flags. In a statement released today, they all said that all members, season pass holders, and all guests with single day or group tickets will have to make reservations online. We do have the link for that on WKYC.com. Now remember, that link is not live yet though, because the park has not set a reopening date, but once it is, that link will be there. The link is there right now. And all parks will have an online reservation system, which is what you need to reserve that time slot in, to stagger arrival times, as well as thermal imaging for temperature checks, security screening technology, and expanded mobile food ordering. So that's just a little bit about what we can expect at Six Flags location around the country when they are eventually able to reopen, when places do get to that phase. Again, we are not at that phase here in Ohio, but something that might be helpful to think about when we look at what Cedar Point might look when it is able to reopen. Browns great Joe Thomas had a shining performance on the Titan Games season premiere yesterday. He won the Mount Olympus Challenge in the season 2 premiere. He is one of the celebrity Titans who has been hand-selected by the show's host, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So if you're not familiar with Joe Thomas, over the course of his 11 seasons as a member of the Cleveland Browns, he was known as the league's Iron Man. He played in an NFL record 10,363 consecutive snaps. He was never out one of those plays. He was in every single play for 10,363 snaps. But even as he enters his second year of retirement, he is a 10-time Pro Bowl selection. He is still living up to that reputation. And he even defended his title in the season 2 premiere against another Ohioan, a deputy sheriff from Delaware, Ohio. So his performance was definitely taken note of by a lot of people, including sports commentator Mike Golick Jr., who said that even in retirement, Joe Thomas remains built different, #TitanGames. So you can catch episode 2 on that, see how Joe Thomas continues to do throughout the games. That will air on Monday, June 1st at 8 p.m. right here on NBC3. And one final note before we let you go here. Today is World Redhead Day. So if you've got red hair, it's your day to celebrate. That is today, Tuesday, May 26th. Now, redheads also have another day. National Love Your Red Hair Day pops up every November, but redheads also get this unofficial holiday here on Tuesday. Well, not always Tuesday, but always on May 26th. So here are some fun facts about redheads. Less than 2% of the world's population has red hair. So if you have red hair, you are very special. The highest concentration of redheads is in Scotland. 13% of the population there has red hair, followed by Ireland, where that is 10%. And having red hair and blue eyes is the rarest hair-eye color combination possible. The odds of a person having both of those recessive traits is around 0.17. So those are pretty small odds. Here is something interesting to know so you can, maybe be a little bit more sensitive to the needs of the redhead in your life. Researchers believe that redheads are more sensitive to pain because of mutation in a gene, the MC1R gene, that affects hair color. According to a 2004 study, redheads on average need about 20% more general anesthesia than people with dark hair or blonde hair. So keep that in mind the next time you pinch a redhead on St. Patrick's Day. You might be hurting them a little bit more than you're hurting the average person. Something definitely to keep in mind. Happy Redhead Day. We will have more on this at 5 p.m. on What's New from our resident redhead, Mike Polk Jr., celebrating World Redhead Day. I'll also be with you at 5 p.m. on What's New. That's right here on NBC3. You can also Catch that on WKYC.com and our WKYC app, as well as on our YouTube page, youtube.com/user/WKYCTV. And of course, we'll have more for you tonight on What Matters Most at 6 p.m., on Front Row at 7 p.m., and on What's Next at 11 p.m. And then I will see you back here tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. with your top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Everyone have a great rest of your afternoon. I'll see you in the early evening at 5 p.m. on What's New, and I'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. I'm Stephanie Haney.